All right, at this point, I'd like to call to order the Wednesday, October 11th, 2017 meeting of the Hannaford Regional Technical School District. I'd like to lead off with introductions. Len, since you're at that corner of the table, would you like to start us?
Yes, Len Schmidt, adult education and cooperative education.
Lorraine Morse, ACSD board rep.
Kim Farnham, New Haven, Community at Large member from Mount A.
Gibson Smith, Hannaford Career Center, Business Review.
Melissa Beckwith, Workforce and Investment Board.
Linda Barrett, clerk.
Dave Peterson, Intro Superintendent.
Jason LaRock, Workforce Development Board.
Michael Laughlin, Workforce Investment Board.
Mark Parent, Workforce Investment Board.
Michael McGrath, Addison Northwest Supervisory Union.
Nick Colston, ACSD representative.
Michael Giorgio, Middlebury.
Kelly Mills, assistant director to the students.
Thank you, everyone. First item of business is to approve the draft agenda. I have two changes to the agenda you have that went out in your packet. Tonight we will need two executive sessions, one for negotiations and one for personnel. What my intent would be to do those at the very end of the meeting. We'll do the negotiations executive session first, and then we'll go into the other executive session. What we'll do is we'll take both motions back to back so we can get them on the camera, and you know it can be clear who's recusing themselves from which meeting. That way it's both on the camera and in the meeting minutes. Other than that, I do not have any other changes to the agenda. Does anyone have anything they want to add to the agenda tonight? If not, I take a motion to accept the revised agenda. It's been moved. Is there a second? It's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed signify by saying nay. The revised agenda has been approved. Next item is visitor comments. Do we have any visitor comments tonight?
No, not for me. I was going to be quiet.
Well, thank you for joining us. Dana, do we have any correspondence?
No correspondence. Thank you.
Next is our consent agenda, which includes the meeting minutes from September 11th and the accounts payable for August and October.
Okay, so both Mike McGrath and I have reviewed both sets of bills, first being August 22nd, 2017. Building equipment reserve is $35,740. General fund total is $240,520.01. The revolving fund would be $1,889.41. On October 11th, we have building equipment reserve of $21,794. General fund total $226,752.12, and the revolving fund of $4,128.12.
Thank you. Now that we have those numbers, is there any?
Yes.
Yeah, I meant
I remember doing it.
well, I had a 1 in 3 chance again.
All right. Does anyone wish to remove any of those items for further discussion? All right, hearing none, the consent agenda is passed. Policy 2.3, financial conditions and activities. This is a monitoring report. There's a copy of that in your packet. I'm going to turn it over to Dana for conversation on that.
Gibson has the details. Expended $673,640, 964, 19.35% in the board's annual budget. You have the total information spending categories identified there. Salaries 331, benefits 173, and programs 14,048. As of September 30th, the general fund balance is 205,151, and the line of credit is at
$1,000. Long-term reserves, as of June 30th, the BRF fund had a cash balance of $66,477, and it's been earmarked for a variety of projects. Also has received from the general fund $107,000. Total remaining funds for FY 17-18 is $173,645. Comments, observations?
I was
Yes.
just curious if we knew, is that tracking in line with where our normal fund rates are at this time of year?
Doesn't alarm me by any means, and our spending is we're 25% of the school year, and we're not at 20% of spending, so.
But that doesn't include encumbrances. No, it doesn't.
Does not cover it.
Any additional questions for Dana or Gibson? All right, it's a point to take a motion to accept this monitoring report.
So moved.
Been moved. Is there a second? It's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All right, hearing none. All those in favor of accepting the monitoring report for policy 2.3, financial conditions and activities, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed signify by saying nay. All right, motion is carried. Next is the monitoring report for policy 2.5, emergency superintendent succession. This is a monitoring report that we report out on your, there's a copy of it in your packet. Is there any questions or concerns?
I noticed that we had a bold area in the second major paragraph. And specific emphasis this year is we placed, that's something new, I presume.
That's something that I've been emphasizing, and it seems that has been underemphasized in the past, and so I thought that I would bring that out as something that we're trying to ensure is happening system-wide, so that the responsibilities of one individual in the organization are not going to be irreplaceable, so that those areas that I've identified in terms of budget policy, legal matters, and supervision are things that we were trying to work on as a collective team. And so far, I'm very proud of the work of my colleagues, both Lynn and Kelly, in those areas. Very helpful. So, great time.
Any additional questions for Dana? All right. Hearing none, I take a motion to accept this monitoring report. Is there a second? It's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor of accepting the monitoring report for policy 2.5, emergency superintendent succession, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed signify by saying nay. Motion is carried. Thank you. So next on our agenda is policy 4.7, board committee structure. I had asked Dana to put in an updated meeting schedule for our committees. This and for board meetings for the remainder of the year. The major change to this is the community engagement committee. So we will be meeting in November. Set that for the first Wednesday of the month. But that's up for discussion if anyone wishes to change that. Right now, that committee is Mike Giorgio, myself, and Kim Farnham. So this should be a good time for you guys to tell me if you have conflicts the first Wednesday of the month. I currently don't. That'd be embarrassing if I did, since I gave him that. The first Wednesday. I say Monday. First Wednesday. Sorry. So that'd be the first Wednesday of the month.
At 5.
At 5. So we go. The first Wednesday would be the community engagement. The first Monday would be facilities. The second Wednesday of the month would be our regularly scheduled board meeting. And the third Wednesday would be the Budget and Policy Committee. And then the fourth Wednesday, free to do whatever we want. So, does anyone have any comments on that? Hearing none, I would take a motion to accept this revised schedule.
Actually, on the Budget and Policy Committee, I think I will generally have a conflict getting here for 5 o'clock on the third Wednesday.
What would you propose we change that to?
I don't have one.
Would 5:30 work?
Well, I had a state board meeting that day,
Okay.
so I know I didn't get back till 7 o'clock a month ago. I think most times 5 o'clock is, it depends what part of the state we're in. I couldn't tell you, we don't have the schedule yet.
Do you want to move it to the fourth Wednesday?
That could work. I just know the fourth Wednesday will be the Wednesday before Thanksgiving in November. October would work.
And if
We can keep it as scheduled and then move that one day around if you want.
Yeah, well, yeah.
So
Well,
I know next Wednesday will be tough to get back here for 5.
But your state board meetings are always on that third Wednesday.
Yeah.
Monthly.
And that did change. It used to be on Tuesday,
So let's change it to the fourth, and then we'll adjust that one if need be.
Okay.
I'll communicate that to Emily and get that back out to the committee and the board. Should I have it sent to all board?
Yeah.
So, yep.
All right, any further discussion? Hearing none, do we have a motion to approve the revised schedule?
So moved.
Do we have a second? Okay, that second, Mike? All those in favor, or any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed signify by saying nay. Okay, that motion is carried, thank you. Next item is proxy / certificate of authority designation by the board. Now,
Emily reminded me, just for the camera, that this item, although it's appearing on our agenda, was not on the original agenda that went
Okay.
out to the community for posting. So
Okay, excellent. I will elaborate a little more on this then. So both the Vermont School Board Association and VHI are having their annual meetings the 19th and 20th at Lake Mooring. Same time the Vermont School Board Association's having its annual conference. There's been regional Vermont School Board Association regional meetings around the state. Both Dana and I attended one in Otter Valley. I want to say it was 3 weeks ago, where they talked about a series of resolutions and some bylaw changes from the Vermont School Board Association. Now, the meeting for the Vermont School Board Association is 4:30 on Thursday, the 19th, I believe.
yes,
And the VHI meeting is 8:30 on Friday, the 20th at Lake Mooring. I will not be there for either of those. I will be up there at the conference. I have a meeting Thursday evening and then another meeting Friday morning. So I'll be running back and forth. So is there anyone else planning on attending that conference? So what I would recommend is that we authorize Dana to vote on our behalf. I sent around an email, I believe it was yesterday. I believe it was yesterday. In there were 2 documents. I'll talk about the bylaw changes first. These are mainly changed, I believe, based on school board representation. They're pretty innocuous changes. So I don't know that anyone I don't have any concerns with us voting to approve or casting a vote to approve these bylaw changes. I don't know if anyone else has.
That's who did it?
This is through the Vermont School Board Association, the minor tweaks, so. And then the other one is the resolutions that we're gonna be asked to vote on a regular basis, or on an individual basis. It was my understanding that there were no resolutions put forth this year by any school boards. So these were resolutions that were put together by the VSBA Resolutions Committee. These are resolutions, they're not legislation, but it's talking about where we should be going and our opportunity to shape that as far as the Vermont School Board Association is concerned. So I don't know if anyone's had a chance to review these, and if anyone's got any comments they'd like to make about any of the resolutions to give, you know, whoever we delegate to be or designate to be our voter, some direction on how we want to vote.
Now, just a question on, we can have anybody, or does it have to be a board of directors?
I think it can be anybody. I did
I've
print out
never
the
seen a
form.
superintendent at a VSBA meeting.
If we need somebody to go, I could go.
So do you have the,
I do, I didn't bring them up, I
Okay.
opened it upstairs, but you want me to go in?
so let's do this. I'll be up there. Yeah. If it turns out, on further review of that document, that we cannot delegate or designate someone other than a school board member to do that, I will stick around for that. What I have that Thursday night isn't critical to what I'm doing, and I can have someone else do that.
Last year, I believe, the superintendent from Windsor Central Supervisory Union was selected as the proxy for the board.
At the school board meeting or at the VHI meeting? Because it happens at the VHI visit meeting the next morning quite often.
Last year, there was some pretty significant changes to regulations, from what I understand. I can't remember whether it was the evening one or the morning one, but we had to.
They were both pretty intense.
That's what I remember. But it was for, there were two, because one was for dental, there were two votes that she was actually asked.
I think that was the morning one.
Okay.
And that was pretty packed, very full. Yeah, I don't know, you just might want to check in.
We'll check that out. So,
I think it was for the proxy statements that we received for the visitor. I didn't vote in the state.
not the VSBA.
I don't think so, Jason. I'd have to go back and check downstairs, but it was for the, and they said that there were no significant issues coming up for voting at this point in time, but they do have two certificates that need to be filled out if anything came up for voting. And those are the two that I was thinking of, so that's probably the visitor one, the morning meeting and the
So let's do this. If we take a motion to authorize myself or David Peterson to act as the board designate at those meetings. And we'll work out which one of us has to do it.
Someone, second.
All right, any further discussion?
Do you plan to discuss the resolutions?
There will be discussion on the resolutions. If you would like to, if you want to weigh in on one of them to give us some directive at this point, I would greatly welcome that.
Well, I thought a couple of them were quite aggressive. For example, on the second one, be it resolved, policymakers shall convene a task force to establish staff to equalize pupil target ratios for specific ratios for schools and school district configuration, and develop recommended strategies for districts to help meet. I always understood that was the role of the school board.
And I believe it still is. This has been a conversation for the last, at least the last few years, around overall staff to student ratios.
Yeah.
And I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I know that there was a big talk about changing a couple of years ago, about working to get to a 5-to-1 ratio.
Yes,
And
the
that's-
secretary just sent out a spreadsheet.
Yeah. And it was at the time, I want to say it was like a 4.7 or something like that.
Yeah.
It's actually gotten worse instead of better,
Yeah.
depending on your perspective.
Yeah.
From a budgeting perspective, the state's saying it's gotten worse.
Right.
It's at 4.25 now, I think, was the number that was in here, 4.23. And they're trying, the intent behind this is trying to help bridge the budget shortfall.
Right,
That's
right.
that's predicted.
Right. But each school district has its own
Yeah.
particularities.
Yep. You know,
I think the intent behind this resolution, I wasn't there when they came up with it, but I've heard it discussed in the past, is because we have a general ed fund and that all our taxpayer dollars goes to a general ed fund, that we are all affected by every school district's budget, and so I think this is the VSBA's way of getting a resolution, getting involved, being able to talk to legislatures, to really show that there's a feeling amongst board members who, to your point, are the ones that control the local budgets, but, you know, that there needs to be a continued amount of force to look at those, because not everybody is, or apparently not everybody feels that everybody is as responsible with their personal budgets as maybe they should be. And some rely on quite a bit of funding from outside taxpayers rather than just from their town.
Yeah.
And it is all over the place.
Yes, but maybe there are reasons for it.
Yep, absolutely.
and at the regional meetings, these were pretty, this wasn't, everyone's, oh, it's great, we're all on board with this. There was a lot of conversation around these and concerns.
Yeah. Do you think they'll be further discussed?
I believe there will be further discussion, and where they end up, how they get reshaped, is up in the air. One of the big things that we did at the region wasn't really, talking about, we all want to talk about the resolutions. The bigger discussion was how we got to the point where we were talking about these resolutions, the fact that there wasn't resolution by school boards, and how we change that in the future so that, the school boards around the state are more active in setting this course as opposed to the SBA setting it, and talking about how, what kind of outreach that, needs to happen, whether the regional rep, what their role should be,
Right.
what my role should be in getting these out to you. I'm sure everyone received the mailings from the DSB that some of this, and I don't know that all of that, but getting, we're all busy getting them out to everyone in a timely manner, so they have the opportunity to weigh in on them. That's what the meetings were about. Case in point, this meeting was 3 weeks ago. You received this email from me yesterday, so we case in point. So,
the same topics have been brought up at the superintendent's statewide meetings as well, in terms of informing leadership at the district level about what is confronting Montrose taxpayers, as well as the opportunities for student learning in classrooms. So, and that figure that Jason was talking about is now it's not a student-teacher ratio, it's a student-to-adult ratio that is a better indicator of how resources are being spent and whether those resources are being at least there's implication that the resources may not be equitably distributed across the state. So that's something that's been brought to the superintendents for discussion as well, about how those resources are allocated.
Does anyone have any other discussion? All right, hearing none. All those in favor of designating either myself or Dana Peterson to be your designee to vote on?
Well, the SBA
Those
and the VISBIT
Correct.
behind you.
Correct. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed signify by saying nay.
Nay.
Motion's carried. Next on, that brings us to our informational agenda. We've already talked about the calendar for subcommittees and meeting times. You'll see in your packet a Career Center newsletter for trade. Would you like to speak about this, Dan?
Sure, I mentioned it in my report as well, but this is something that we've come up with in terms of trying to profile student achievements, what's going on at the Career Center, and highlighting certain programs in each edition. And we're looking to do it twice a month. And this was the first one that came out, as you can see, on September 29th. And we're trying to reach out to audiences. As I mentioned in my report, we have two ways of tracking followership, and one is on Facebook, the other is on our website. And Len, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think there were 500 hits on one site and 650 on the other, as a result of 2 days of the new newsletter appearing on our website and on the webpage. It was not the webpage, on Facebook. So if you'd like to comment about that one, I was really pleased, and so was the faculty when we announced that last week at the staff.
That's had better reach on our Facebook site than anything since the picture of last year's CDL graduates.
Great. And all of the program instructors are interested in contributing throughout the year, so we're hoping to showcase as many programs as possible and highlight things that are happening around the center in terms of good work that's being done.
I was just gonna say, maybe that would be interesting to link that to a front porch forum in some way, because that reaches out to a lot of people. It's just recognized there.
Any further questions or discussion on the newsletter? Excellent, thanks a lot. Next item is the facilities report. There's a copy of meeting minutes for Monday, September 11th, 2017 in your packet. Are there any questions for the facilities committee in regards to those meeting minutes? So, Mr. Beckley. Anything you want to highlight?
I think
For the
mostly
camera?
covered that at our last meeting.
You gave a verbal report, even
Yes.
though we didn't have the...
Because it all tied together the last 3 months, and we haven't met again, so.
We will be meeting next Monday.
You
16th.
should have already gotten an agenda.
Yes, you received that. Or I received that. Any questions for the facilities committee? Next will be the superintendent's report. There's a copy of that in your packet. I'll turn it over to Dana to highlight anything he wants to say for the camera, and we'll turn it over for questions.
Well, the first article on there was the auditor's report. We made a few recommendations. They gave us really high marks and congratulatory comments to both Gretchen and Gibson for the excellent work that they did in helping them have all of the materials available for them for that audit. They said it went very, very well. Working with us was a pleasure, as they indicated. One of the things that I'll highlight is working on some protocols, some written protocols about internal procedures. I've mentioned those in here in a little bit more detail, and that's something that we started working on almost right away. Gibson and Gretchen and I met like 2 or 3 days later to go over a punch list of topics that we need to attend to. Most of those are summarized here in your report. If you have any questions about that, I would entertain those before going on with anything further in my board report, simply because Gretchen and Gibson are here also if you would like to answer any questions. But I am very proud of the work that they did and the time that they did to make sure that the audit went without a hitch. And Gibson particularly in trying to find a new auditor when we told them around June 30th that our previous auditor was not going to be able to honor the commitment for this year in September. So we were grateful that the auditor was available and also grateful for their complimentary comments of the staff that we have. Thank you.
I would just be interested to know, since it's a new auditor, how did that, were you satisfied with that working relationship? They provide what you needed?
So far, so good. I mean, we're still in the process, so the audit isn't finalized, but they came, they asked for the materials, we were ready for them, and we presented the materials and so I think things went very smoothly and quickly. We dealt with the principal and so there was only 2 of them. So very personable, and they asked a lot of questions, and in fact, I think there will be, Ron Smith will actually be on site next week for some follow-up. But also like to mention that Ron Smith would also like to do a presentation to the board after, once the audit is finalized. So you can think about that. We can arrange that when the time is right.
And maybe he could attend one of the next 2 board meetings so we can provide that.
That's in your report too.
Excuse me?
I said, I think that was in your report as well.
Yeah, I did. I threw a lot of things in. But thank you, Kirsten, was just reminding us. The only other thing, unless there are any other questions about the auditor's report of that portion, the only other thing that I want to mention is that a group of us met the other day on the website update, and we have a series of action steps that will also probably involve folks from the communications committee or whatever, the community engagement committee, in terms of sending out a survey and reconnecting with people who work on the website and looking at the next steps to have a pilot of the site that a lot of work was done on several years ago, and seeing if we can make that live and active sometime in the future. So stay tuned for that, but we had a very productive meeting the other day. The other members of that committee include Dan Callahan, Jake Burnham, Lisa Rader, Len Schmidt, and there's Dan, Len, Lisa. Did I catch everybody? Yeah, so on the pilot committee. Lisa, Dan, Jake, you, and me, right?
Excellent. Any additional questions? Now we'll move on to the students' report, which is in your packet. And I'll turn it over to Kelly.
Okay, so I highlighted 3 different points in my report, the fall open house, and I appreciate everyone that attended. I think we had a great turnout from parents and students, and it was nice to meet families. So I thought that was extremely successful. We had a large participation with Addison County United Way Day of Caring on the 21st. And we had a professional development face-to-face meeting with our consultant last Tuesday. So that's pretty much wrapping up what's going on. Thank you. Any questions?
All right. Hearing none, we'll move to our adult technical ed report, which is on the back side of the previous report. Turn it over to Len.
Be happy to answer questions if anybody has them.
What is your enrollment in the CDL program?
I believe we're down to 3.
But you're still gonna run it, or?
Yes, the communication between the contractor who runs the program and myself has not been terrific. Our MOU stipulates that we need 6, but he ran it last spring with 5. He knows that we're at 3 and has let me know that he's still planning on running it, although he did postpone 2 weeks. I inquired if he'd let all our students know that he had postponed 2 weeks, and he assured me that he had, and I had students on my doorstep Monday the 9th looking for the CDL class who he had not contacted. I believe he's running the program, but the communication could be better. And it's my intention to contact Bill Lucci at Stafford Tech Center and see if they would be interested in working with us on a CDL program simply because I feel like there's limitations to the arrangement.
Not bad. Any additional questions for Len? The next item would be our policy for Form 1 governing style. We'll do that before we take the motions for executive session. Do you have a volunteer to take on 4.1?
I think it was very well run. We were ahead of schedule, very to the point. The questions were needed, they were asked, there was no talking over one another, and kept it pretty efficient. I think it went pretty well.
Thank you, Mike. So at this point, I would take a motion to go into executive session for negotiations.
Is it negotiations?
Personnel. It's negotiations and personnel. We have 2 different items we need to address, so, well, it's an update on staff as well.
Okay.
So it's,
All right.
it's a
I move
conversation.
that we go into executive session for the purposes of discussion of personnel and negotiations.
Okay. I'm envisioning having both Gibson and Dana stay for this. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed signify by saying nay. All right, and then after that, we'll come out and do another executive session. If we can get that motion on the as well.
Well, I said both.
No, so for the, sorry buddy. So our second executive session would be for personnel. And I would ask the board, do we have a motion?
Why don't we end the last motion, right? Can we, or even pass?
Well, because it's 2 things. It really is 2 things, and in the first one, we're really talking about 2 different things as well. So I think your motion is fine.
Okay.
I think your motion is fine where it stands. We just need a second motion.
Second motion for personnel.
I can bring it to
And all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And I would need to recuse myself for the second executive session.
Do we have anyone else who will be recusing themselves?
Sadly, I'm not going to be able to be a part of that either.
Me too. Okay, so our second executive session will be the board minus Lorraine and Mike. All right, at this point, we'll go into executive session.